Right along here with our media availability here. We are now joined by Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. If you have a question for Denny, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. We will start off with Nate and then Bob.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Danny, I want to go back to something you said after Pocono where you said the rules of going for a win have changed in the last 10 years. Obviously, that coincides with the restructuring of the playoffs in 14. But was there a moment, or have there been moments like when the move you made at Pocono and Larson became an accepted way of doing business? Or
I think it is become I think it has become accepted. Certainly, it's been more lenient. I think from a media standpoint, and a fan standpoint, within reason, as long as it's not something crazy. Again, it's not. It changes depending on how severe it is. If you look at the Ty Gibbs, Brandon Jones thing, that certainly is like way over the top and things like that. But I think that normal, racing hard at the end of races for wins, it certainly seems like, that's been kind of the mantra that has come about over the last 10 years or so. It's definitely been different. I mean, it doesn't mean it over the last 30 years that it hasn't happened, but it's just been more of a, win at all costs type of mantra for sure.
just all because in 2014 it became wins are tied to playoff berths and advancement. That's what changed it.
Yeah, certainly. I think when they started giving playoff points and stage points, which that's what it was geared to do, right, is make us more, the sense of urgency to ramp up, knowing that regular season performance matters towards making it to the Final Four with a shot. So that's, certainly I think the system's doing what it was designed to do.
And when William Byron was in here earlier, he was saying that the move you made and others have made, it's easier with the next-gen car to kind of get on the inside. Would you agree with that? Has it become something easier to do?
I it's so different with the next-gen because with the other car, the guy on the outside would use the air to make the inside guy loose. You'll see in Xfinity Series or Truck Series, when the guy's on the outside, they want to get closer to the inside guy and get them loose, and sometimes they spin, sometimes they don't. But that's them manipulating the air to make it tough on that guy or what have you. In the Cup car, it's the other way around. Like the power position's actually on the bottom, not the top. So it is certainly a lot different than the other one.
Bob?
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. I know Kyle's had some sprint car stuff, but have you guys talked or texted or anything?
Yeah, we've communicated.
Yeah, and how'd that go?
I thought it went good.
And looking back, would you do anything different if you had to do it all over again?
I mean, it's really hard to say you do anything different. It's so split second, and the win meant so much to me at that time. Again, so many different records that we could accomplish with that one win with the track, with Toyota, with myself personally. It's hard to say in that moment I would do anything differently for sure. Certainly I didn't like the outcome for him. I wish that he could have finished second, but it was one of those things where we just flat out ran out of room, and I made a split second decision to try to clear him instantly. And you can see from my onboard, I don't see him, right? I see him go up the track, and I don't know where he's at when I start to throttle up, and I'm saying, all right, I'm going to clear him. But when I didn't, I knew that we were going to be in a bad spot.
We're going to go to Randy, then Kelly, then Davey.
Randy Hallman, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Last time we talked, Denny, you hadn't yet spoken with Kyle. Did you guys come to the race together? I know you do sometimes.
No, not this time.
Can you give us any more about what was said and what the mood was? Not
really. I mean, I think similar to the Chase Elliott incident. After he reached out to me, I just prefer to keep it private and between us. And if they care to elaborate on it, that's totally fine. But I'll leave it up to them.
Kelly and then Davey.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Denny, going back to what you just said about the system, and then looking at Twitter this week, you had responded to somebody pointing out that, well, you've been wrecked in the past. Are you having to maybe adjust your mindset and get more aggressive, tying into what you said about the system, because it kind of seems like, in a way, like you have to be more selfish, I think, in this system, right? To succeed and try to get to deep in the playoffs and not worry so much about other people. Like, you have to do what you have to do to, as cliche as that is, to get to Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just different now. The cars are closer together. The passing is more difficult than it's ever been. I mean, even Mark Martin would have to adjust his style in this type of car, because the days of, the gentleman letting the guy go and you'll just go get him later, like it's just not. It's a different game nowadays, and I wish we could go back to those days, but that's not where we're at. You have to adapt to where you're at. You adapt or you die. And so certainly I feel like over the last few years I've decided to be more aggressive, because I've got used up by aggressive, and it's hard to blame them at the time, because it's like, especially in a race winning situation, certainly you're upset when someone just right rear hooks you or runs right in the back of you in stage one and spins you out and puts you in the wall. That's one thing. Racing for the win is certainly a lot different than what it has been in the past. And if you have one person willing to be aggressive and one not, aggressive will win every time. It's just the facts of it. And usually you're not going to find two guys that are the nice guy at the end of these races anymore. Someone has to take it to the next level to, want it. And then if you have two guys that really want it, you see what happens at Darlington, right? It's this person squeezed, next restart, okay, find this person squeezed. Like, that's just what happens. And I'm adamant that that's when the race fans win. That's when they get to see the action and the passion they want to see.
So you said there about over the last few years you've had to get more aggressive, and I wanted to ask about that. Was there a moment where you decided, okay, I can't be the guy that gets used up, I have to start changing how I race now?
I mean, honestly, I think it was after the Chastain thing for sure. I mean, I certainly was very vocal about, I need to do something, and at the time the scales were like 3-0, right? And I just was very frustrated. My team was frustrated at me for not doing anything. And and so the mindset just changed to, you got to put it out there that you're going to be aggressive, because I think that if a guy runs into you, you're going to run right back into him, and that's the way I've got to change things from this point forward, because it's for the most part it's been tough results for us at the end of the race, especially the last 3 years. It's been spun out of the lead 3 times, so it's really, really tough. And so I just have said that it's time to be more aggressive. I certainly hate that it came at Kyle's expense, for sure. I mean, if there's anyone in the field that I probably should protect, it's those guys, but it's or teammates. But man, it's that the win just meant a lot to me at the time, and I made an attempt to pass them, and it didn't happen the way I intended, for sure.
We're going to go to Davey and then Lane.
Davey Siegel with SiriusXM. I know you're obviously not going to divulge the details of the conversation you had, but why did you want to have it in person versus over the phone? And did you have a goal of what you wanted to accomplish coming out of the conversation? And if so, did you accomplish that goal?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always going to be a difference of opinion, and sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and that's okay. But the biggest thing is you need to, I think, hearing the other person out and understanding why they're frustrated. Sometimes when you get caught up in your own world and thinking about your own team and how important it is to them, and you have an incident like that, you do need to sit down and take a second to hear the other side. And I totally understand that, for sure. But yeah, I mean, as far as, I wanted to have it in person, I did, because I thought that, we should have that type of relationship. And, but the details of it won't come from my end.
And going back to, I think it was Nate's point about 2014 when stuff started changing, we've seen a lot of times drivers, lay back and let somebody get their lap back at the end of the stage and just kind of give a little bit more when they don't need to take as much, so that they maybe race a little bit differently when it matters more in the playoffs and in the championship four. How do you walk that fine line, especially doing so with drivers like Kyle that, you're going to be racing when it comes down to it in Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're typically going to have these incidents with guys that are up front. That's because you're racing next to each other all the time. That they're going to be competitive every week. We're going to be competitive every week. So that's just part of it. But I think both sides understand that there's a bigger prize to be had, and certainly it probably meant as much to him at the time because he knows that he's just trying to get to Phoenix with a shot, same as we are. So it's so different, and it is dog eat dog type of mentality now, and it seems like it's even grown on some of the older guys. It really is. I mean, short of maybe Martin, he might be probably the cleanest guy in the garage, but yeah, I mean, he wins them, but he usually doesn't have anyone close to him to battle him when he wins. So it's a little different for sure.
Lane Castanante, CBS 6 here in Richmond. Denny, you're getting to a point now where every win clicks off another milestone and another chapter to your career resume. Are you able to enjoy these milestones, or does the business at hand and the fact that it's every single week kind of take away from that, and will you have to wait until the end of the season to look back on being Manchester's greatest athlete?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's very tough because when you lose, it's like you got another chance to win every 7 days, but when you win, it's like the team's ready to turn the corner and everyone's ready to turn the corner and focus on the next track, and you don't get a whole lot of time to enjoy it. And like I mentioned last week's after the race, that the conversation with Matt Kenseth was like, man, until you retire, he's like, you don't understand what you've accomplished, right? And so we'll look back on it in one day, but the job at hand now is just to keep putting stats in the stat column to try to have a conversation at the end of the career about. But certainly I'm very happy if I didn't have another top 5 or not top 10 or another win. I've been very happy with my career.
Denny, we'll go over here to your right to Owen and then Al.
Hi, Denny. Owen Johnson, CupScene.com. Do you expect to be raced differently in the coming races, kind of as a target for moves like this going forward, or do you think the aggression that you've talked about is so high that everyone's going to get moves like this put on them?
Yeah, I think that it's the field is like this. You'll see it in turn 1 on a restart, that everyone's no one really cares about what others have done to you or you've done to others. They're just trying to get all for themselves, and so that's just the nature of racing the Cup Series now. So no, I don't expect any different, because stuff like that happens many times during the race that we don't even see.
Yeah, Danny, do you recall a specific moment when somebody at corporate NASCAR said, okay, boys have at it, we can't have that anymore? You remember when Robin Pemberton said that, boys have at it? Now it's gotten to the point where if you have at it, you might get suspended. Where did that happen? Do you remember?
I think it was during the Kenseth incident, honestly. That with him and Logano, that was the point where they stepped in and for the first time in a long time, someone got suspended for something on track. From that point on, they deemed it as anything super egregious that puts someone in danger, they're going to do something about it. And so, the 2 suspensions that we've seen have been egregious and put the other in danger.
So Martinsville with Kenseth and Logano.
Yes.
You think that might have been
that was the point where I think they, said, unless you're racing for position, they're not going to tolerate someone slowing down. You got the Boyer, Jeff Gordon incident where, Jeff slowed down and waited for him and then took out Boyer and Logano, I think, at the time. Those were just really over the top, stuff that they thought that, that's essentially kind of not racing.
We're going to wrap up here with Holly.
Hi, Denny. Holly Kane with the NASCAR Wire Service. Over the course of covering the sport for decades, I've always had people say I'd wreck my best friend to win. That's kind of, you and Kyle were good friends, are good friends, I'm assuming still. My point in all this is, do you think that also showing that you're willing to take it door to door, even with somebody that you are good friends with, maybe establishes things for you as the season kind of winds down? People might be a little less likely to mess with you, so to speak. I mean, does it establish that this is how you're, going to be?
it is how I'm going to be. That's for sure. I'm not gonna back down from being aggressive. And again, I'm having to adapt my style to this. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. Certainly, the game has changed for sure. But yeah, I think that the fans should like that two people are willing to put any personal friendship aside when they go and compete on a racetrack on Sunday. I mean, that's when they win, is that when, they don't want to see someone let someone go. That's less entertaining, right? And we are in an entertainment business. So I think that, the fans win in that instance. But yeah, it's just, certainly, I think in me and Kyle's instance, he's gotten the worst end of it a few times. So I probably need to be more aware and be a little bit more cautious around him, simply because the scales are tipped in my favor in that instance.
Thank you very much, Denny. Good luck this weekend. And for those in here, we are now going to open our Cup qualifying bullpen. We've got a couple drivers out